Hi everybody, welcome to this month's book club, and I'm so excited to be here. And funny story, last month in the book Biology we talked about at Amazon how sometimes how you buy things, it suggests things that says, you know, people that bought this also bought that. Well, that's where this book came from. So this is actually by far one of my favorite books of all times. It's got humor, it's got real life stories, it's got perspective, it has sadness, but it has so much reality in it. I highly recommend this book to people that have been recently diagnosed with ADHD or people that have been struggling and not understanding what they might have. This is a great book for that. I'm Chris Scrott with OrganizingManiacs, and we are a professional organizing company in the DC metro area. And we specialize in working with clients with brain-based challenges. So the majority of our clients have ADD, ADHD, OCD, and hoarding tendencies. So I tend to read a lot of books about brain-based related stuff. Hence how this book came to me as like, you bought that, you may like this. But this is a reread for me. I think I first bought this book. It was published in 2012, so I might have bought it around that time. And I try to read it again, maybe like every couple of years, just because I think like she is such a great and funny writer that it just kind of reminds you of how we should behave when we're meeting with people that have ADHD. So one of my all-time favorite books. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my highlights just because that's what the book club is about, right? So she super funny. If you have a good sense of humor, when you read this book, you're gonna be like, oh my god, that describes my friend blah blah blah, totally down to a T. So we all have known somebody that has ADHD, and we may just have been like super judgmental or have tried to fix them. And the truth is that brain wiring is brain wiring, right? You wouldn't just wake up and say to somebody like, hey, I don't like the fact that you have brown eyes. Can't you get some blue ones instead? You wouldn't say that to someone. And we should not say the things that we do say to people that have ADHD, because it's just the way their brains are wired, and they're not going to be able to change that for you or for I. So, but the very first time I read this book, I had been on a trip and I was at the airport. And have you read something that it was so funny and you just couldn't hold back, and then you just burst out laughing, and then the people around you start looking at you thinking like, what is wrong with you? And then you have like tears coming down your face and you're just really trying to hold back, but you can, and the more you try to hold back, the more you laugh. Well, that was me sitting at the airport packed with people just laughing hysterically. So I can't say it enough. It was one of my favorite books. So sometimes people say like, who are some fascinating people you would ever love to meet? I would love to meet this woman. She's a funny and amazing. Anyway, one of my favorite books. So her story is just, is very typical of a lot of people with ADHD. She owned 27 businesses by the time she wrote this book. I would imagine if I met her today, this is like, 6 years later since she wrote the book, I'm sure she has accumulated a few more businesses since then. But she touches on very real problems that people with ADHD have that may not have like a quick solution like the rest of us would think there would be. Procrastination was one that she talked about quite a bit in the book, and it is one of the most common complaints I hear my clients that have ADHD complain about. I don't know why I can't stop procrastinating. And some of the solutions that I have found that have worked for some of my clients is to find a buddy system, right? Maybe if you're working on a project with somebody, become accountable to someone on a regular basis, not just waiting until the end of the deadline to approach. If you're in school, finding a buddy partner or a study partner, once again, somebody that you're accountable for. If you're trying to lose weight, or if you're trying any habit you're trying to change, find somebody that is in the same situation. Make sure the two of you are accountable. Perhaps you should consider not finding another person with ADHD to be your buddy, just because they might be procrastinating just like you are, so the motivation is not both ways, right? That's probably the only time I would say maybe try to find somebody that's a little bit more structured. That might be helpful for you. And I think the one really important gift that I've seen some of my clients with ADHD really succeed at is the ability to break down projects into much smaller sections, or think of it as much more compartmentalized, and they are able to, be more organized that way. So procrastination is real. I struggle with procrastination regularly, and when you have a hard time with focus already, and procrastination tends to be in your brain wiring, it can be much worse. So procrastinators unite. The other thing I hear my clients complain a lot about is not completing projects. So having a multitude of projects that are unfinished in all, in all parts of completion. And I think clients talk about that quite a bit. Like, what is the reason why they can't finish their projects? Is it because they have lack of focus? How they can find better focus is one way to solve that problem. Or are they always trying to start new projects, and that's just how they operate? They just get bored. They cannot finish their projects. Are they struggling with perfectionism, and they can't finish the project because they really want everything to be super perfect, and that delays the process? Those are some of the issues people have. Some of the solutions are just all over the place, and I think even the rest of us that are super organized and productive, if we're not careful, we can totally end up with a whole bunch of projects that we never finish, just because it's very overwhelming. I had a client that I worked with for a long time, and he literally had to limit himself to how many projects he could work on at any given time. By the time we had worked with each other for a while, he limited himself to 5 active projects at any given time. So he had to finish one project in order to be able to start another project. And he felt like 5 was a good number, that he didn't feel like there were too many, but there weren't too few where he felt like he was constricted. So maybe finding a balance there about how many projects you have opened, and if you feel like you can limit yourself to, 3, 5, 7 at the very most might be a good number for you. But I see a lot of mindset issues with clients too. I think they have spent a life of people telling them how bad they are because they never finish anything, or because they never get anything done on time. So they develop this mindset that is like, I'm never on time, I never deliver on deadlines, I always procrastinate, or I'm a perfectionist. Or so they start thinking about these things that people are saying to them on a regular basis as part of themselves. And then therefore they become that, because that's what they're saying to themselves they are, right? And that becomes an excuse a little bit. I like to tell clients, like, don't use your ADHD as a crutch, right? It is something that it is your brain wiring, and it's totally cool. However, there are ways that you can maybe avoid some of these issues by limiting your projects, or by not repeating that, I don't care about my deadline because nobody expects me to deliver it on time, right? Maybe if you wanted to respect the deadline, it's okay that you respect the deadline, and maybe you are going to get your project finished way closer to the deadline than completely blow it by, months or whatever. So think about the mindset that you may be saying to yourself about some of these issues that you may be having, and is there any way that you might be able to help yourself by saying something different, like, I'm an organized person in progress, or I used to be disorganized, but I'm getting better, or I want to be more organized, or I'm trying to be more organized, or I am working on my organization skills. I think making just a small, slight improvement on how we talk to ourselves sometimes makes a huge difference. And that may help you finish some of your projects that, you've been lingering on for forever. I think one of the biggest things that I see our clients struggling is guilt. And we all have guilt about everything. I have guilt. I have guilt that I don't call my mom enough. I have guilt that I don't call my siblings enough. I have guilt that I don't exercise ever, besides going on my bike. So you can list your own list of all the things you have guilt about. But our clients that have ADHD will have, their guilt is like deep, you know. They have guilt about not showing up for people, or not showing up on time, or always feeling self-conscious about the fact that, you know, whatever they're doing may be offending others. Sometimes I do have clients that are completely oblivious and they, you know, they just don't even care. However, they feel guilt about that too, because they wish they cared more and that their brains worked differently. So there's a lot of forgetting, which is another big issue that causes a lot of guilt. You know, forgetting things like birthdays and anniversaries and important dates, and, you know, sometimes just forgetting to go to the movies with their friend when they said they would and they totally forgot to write it down and didn't remember it until it's way past the time, and then you kind of strain those relationships. So she says something really powerful towards the end of the book, and it is that it is important for everyone with ADHD to have at least one cheerleader in their lives. And that will be a loved one that will love them unconditionally, never judge, never try to fix them, or make them feel shameful about how they are wired. And I hope that after you read this book, that you develop compassion for somebody in your life that has ADHD. I tend to give this book to a lot of people, especially if they go on and on and on about some person in their life that needs to be more organized, or that needs to hire us to make their lives completely, you know, changed. Sometimes it's not as simple as that, right? So come on, have some compassion for somebody that has ADHD, because they're really trying not to burn their hair up. And there's a true story in the book about how she nearly burned her hair, so that's how the book title came about. She said something else that really resonated with me. It is amazing how the universe responds when you get rid of things that aren't working in your life. And I don't think she was just talking about clutter. I think she was talking about people and jobs and all kinds of things that sometimes we linger on just because, right? And then she says, you make room for things that do work. And then they come. It's like magic. So, on that note, I want to once again remind you that if you'd like to read our summary report, we deliver these directly to our Organizing Maniacs peeps to their inbox. That's the only way to get the summary. If you don't like watching videos, you can sign up for that. You can find us if you need some organizing support, or if you need some help being more organized while having ADHD. You can find us at OrganizingManiacs.com. Anyway, I hope you pick up the book this summer and just have a good laugh and learn something you didn't already know about someone around you in your life, or maybe, you know, in your school PTA. Anyway, until next month, happy reading. I'll see you soon. Bye.